Welcome back to Pop Culture Explosion. I'm Mike.
I'm Jeff.
And we're doing a segment today called toySPOT, where we talk about vintage toys that we grew up with and we still have that passion about. So today we're going to kind of look at, do a little bit of a history to start off with. This is the first episode, so kind of give you an idea where we come from with this. We met back in the 70s.
1978, I believe.
Yeah. So I moved into the neighborhood. He was already there. And I was already kind of collecting Star Wars and what have you. And then you already had this other whole world going on with
the Mego.
Would you say Mego?
Mego action figures.
Okay.
Planet of the Apes, Star Trek, superheroes, and a bunch of other odds and ends that they came out with also that we're going to talk about.
Okay. So Mego is like this dime store toy company that started in 1954 and bought up a bunch of licensing and stuff like that. And, in particular, Star Trek started gaining the popularity because of the animated series. So 1974 is when they were doing the Megos, I believe.
That's when the syndication for Star Trek blew up, too.
Yes.
And Mego got the licensing to do all the action figures, and that took off, and that kind of created the whole Star Trek craze, actually, in a sense.
What was like your first memories, or where did it start really?
Well, it started with Planet of the Apes. And, I was maybe 3 years old, and I saw the movie Planet of the Apes on TV, and I just fell in love with it. And there were these action figures that we found, and they were the Mego action figures, and these are the ones that I started off collecting. So, and I had all of them. I only have 3 or 4 left. A lot of them I broke, and they went through. I put them through, all kinds of stuff. But
of course,
the great thing about these action figures, though, is they're the costumes you could take off. You can interchange the costumes. They were kind of like dolls for boys in a sense, and they were just a great way to reenact scenes from the movie and just do your own imagination. Have them do other, whatever. So these are some examples of the Planet of the Apes figures, Dr. Zaius and Cornelius. So,
now, how many figures would you say they had, in the collection for those?
For the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
I think there was 6 or 7 total.
Okay.
Maybe 8 total.
Really?
Okay, so they had the main characters, and they had some of the humans also. So they had some of about 2 or 3 of the human figures also. And originally they came out with the figures for the movie, but then in their 1974-ish, there was the Planet of the Apes TV show that came out. And there were some newer characters introduced into that, and they came out with those figures also.
Were those the same 8-inch?
The same 8-inch. They were all, the Mego figures were all 8-inch size. Removable costumes. They went through a couple of different variations. When they first came out in the early 70s, it's what's called a Type 1 body. And the Type 1 body was, the figures had metal rivets in their joints. So for their hand,
and the points
wrists,
of articulation.
They had all the points of articulation: elbow, wrist, ankle, knee. But the original Type 1 figures were a little more kind of, what can I say, dainty in a sense, and they were put together by just really a cloth cord, which would fray, and over time they would break. So here's an example of a Captain Kirk from Star Trek, and he's probably going to fall apart soon. Later on, they came out with a Type 2 body, and there's a tighter, a thicker rubber band that holds them together. They're a little more sturdy in the mid to late 70s.
Now, it seems like there's a market then for repro clothes and replacement parts and things like that.
Oh yeah, you can find on the internet places that sell reproductions. So this was Superman from the World's Greatest Superheroes line, and the costume is original, the figure is original, but the boots boots and the gloves and the sticker on his chest, I found on the internet. So these are reproductions. So if you just want to have the figure again, just to display it, it's not expensive at all. They would just find the reproductions for these, a couple dollars for the boots and the gloves.
Right.
So it's just a good way to, if you want to just put it back together just to display it. So.
Right, and I've done that with some of the old Star Wars figures, getting the repro weapons back, or, getting a new cape for Obi-Wan or whatever. Or like sometimes, buying and reselling, doing,
right.
putting the figure back together as a reproduction. This is original, this is not. And people are still into that, buying it. So.
Yeah, so I can talk about actually the Star Trek. Here's one figure that I have. This is Alien Talos, and I'm missing the head. I broke it off when I was I broke a lot of my toys when I was a kid, so the head is missing. So I've been scouring the internet trying to find it, and I haven't found it yet, but one of these days I'm going to find somebody who's selling the head, and I'm going to put it back on here, and I'll have him.
Now, did he have boots?
He did.
Accessories?
No, I believe he did have boots too, but they're missing. And then the head, obviously, I want to get.
So you could message us if you have, or if you know of a resource.
I'm looking for his head.
So what do we have here? We have the
so this is like the crown jewel of the Mego Star Trek line. This is the Enterprise, the Star Trek Enterprise, and it's basically a case, kind of where you can fold it up and take it to go. You can put your figures in there and take it to go. And it's got the captain's chair. It's got the console back here, chair. And it also has this one feature. So if I take the Klingon, and it has the transporter. So you could put the Klingon inside here, and this spins around, and you can stop it, or you can have it stop on the other side where you open it up and he can come out this side. So there was a cool twist on this.
Yeah,
and I had a lot of fun playing with this.
A pretty awesome Christmas gift back in the day,
right?
To open that up,
Yeah, this is probably from 1975, 76, probably.
Really? Yeah.
And they had the screen here where you can interchange them, put different scenes from Star Trek, they're kind of, obviously from the 1970s, from the drawings. So this is fun and interesting. The figures, the Star Trek figures, they all came with a phaser. They came with their the tricorder. Came with the insignia, the sticker. And the difference with the Star Trek figures from the other Megos is the other Megos, you could take the boots off and the shoes. The Star Trek figures, the boots were built into the leg, so you couldn't take them off. And they also didn't have ankle joints. But that never seemed to matter. But the Star Trek line was probably the second biggest line that they had in terms of the number of figures. I mean, they had quite a few with the main crew they had, but they also had a lot of the aliens. Like this is a Neptunian figure, and then this was always my favorite one, Sharon. So this is from that episode of Star Trek, and for whatever reason, this was always my favorite one. But the biggest line for Mego was the superheroes. The world's greatest superheroes.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't know exactly how many of them. There probably were upwards of more than 30 of them, probably. Really? Maybe 50 different superheroes they might have had.
And they weren't biased to Marvel or DC, right?
No, they were both. They were both. They had, Spider-Man, Superman, so Marvel and DC. They also had some characters like they would have Conan the Barbarian, Tarzan. They had.
Well, and part of their shtick was celebrities, also like celebrity figures.
Oh yeah, celebrity. One thing that Mego did better than everyone else in the 70s was get these licenses from the TV shows and movies that were out at the time. I mean, they had licensed to make figures. Even the Wizard of Oz, which came back, they used to show this around Easter every year. The Wizard of Oz came back on TV, and they got the licensing to do figures for the Wizard of Oz. So this is the Tin Man, and they had all the characters for that. And also TV shows from the 1970s, like Starsky and Hutch that they had. Okay, they had a whole line of those figures, Starsky Hutch. They had Huggy Bear. They had some bad guys, various generic bad
Did
guys.
they have the car?
They had the car, yep. And I did have the car as a kid, too. Right? That's long gone. And one of the more unique figures was the Fonz. They did have all the Happy Days. They had the whole gang. But Fonz was a little different because his thumbs, you could actually point them up. His articulation was in the thumb, and then there was a lever in the back where you could, make him go, "Hey." So,
well, we're going to wrap up this episode. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we will be back again with some more vintage stuff. We're going to be talking about, of course, Star Wars, 1977, and G.I. Joe, and whatever else, that we get our hands on. So,
see you next time.
Thanks for watching.